Here is the cover of The Economist magazine that caught my eye this week with the Statue of Liberty on the cover. What's wrong with America's economy? And here's what the lead says. The economy is recovering, yet American confidence remains mired at levels more commonly seen in recessions. For that, blame unemployment, petrol prices or gas prices, and a deeper nagging feeling that America is in decline. A Gallup poll in February asked Americans to name the world's leading economic power. By a significant margin, they said China. And unemployment is really the driver. This is the chart of how it looks in the course of the Obama presidency from February of 2009, the high point in October at 10.1%. Now we're at 8.8%. What kind of economic recovery is this, Mayor? Well, seems like a tough one.
When you come out of a recession, the first thing that everybody does is tighten their belt and try to do more with less. So it's not surprising that corporate profits are going up and governments are finding ways to provide services with fewer people. It is only a little further into the recovery that you start to add more people. Companies are willing to take risks. Governments think their tax base is going to be better and start expanding services and hiring people to provide that. Like anything else, some parts of the country are doing poorly, some are doing well, some are doing better. New York City, for example, is doing better. We're not back to where we were before, but we are doing better. I think what's happening really here in this country is petroleum prices, although industry is less dependent on petroleum than they used to be. But if you drive a car, you're very dependent on petroleum, and gasoline at $4+ is something that a lot of Americans find very difficult to work into their budget, and they don't have a lot of choice. A lot of commodity prices, food, have gone up dramatically, and the statistics don't show quite the impact on individual families because they cover a lot of different costs. Having said all of that, there are some bright spots. I think if you wanted to go buy a house, and if you can afford it, and if you're secure in your job, mortgage rates are low, housing prices continue to fall, you can get great bargains, and you shouldn't wait till the end. The most important thing, however, is jobs. And we have a great mismatch in this country between the skill sets of those who are unemployed and the demand in industry and in government for people with a very different set of abilities. And it's a function of years and years, decades of poor schools and not training people.
This disconnect where we hear that the economy is getting better, stock market is improving, so much has gone on Wall Street to get healthy again, with the major banks getting healthy again, and yet we're in this state where you have stubbornly high unemployment.
Well, there's a couple of different things here. One, there is a crisis of confidence, and the one that really is worrisome is not just when you go out and say, do you feel better or worse about the economy? It is a crisis of confidence among business people. They look at Washington and they say, you can't run something this way. No company would survive if you ran it the way Washington runs, where they focus on small issues that have nothing to do with the real America, on issues they can't come together on. The most obvious one is immigration. This is a country that was built by immigrants. This is a country that became a superpower because of its immigrant population. And unless we continue to have immigrants, we cannot maintain as a superpower. And I'll give you a good example of how you can fix some of the problems in America. Take a look at the big old industrial cities, Detroit, for example. Got a great mayor, Mayor Bing, but the population has left. You've got to do something about that. And if I were the federal government, assuming you could wave a magic wand and pull everybody together, you pass a law letting immigrants come in as long as they agree to go to Detroit and live there for 5 or 10 years, start businesses, take jobs, whatever. You would populate Detroit overnight because half the world wants to come here. We forget, we whip ourselves a little bit too much. We still are the world's greatest democracy. We still have hope for, if you want to have a better life for yourself and your kids, this is where you want to come. And you could use something like immigration policy at no cost to the federal government to fix a lot of the problems that we have.
Let me ask you about taxes. Big debate, as you know, in Washington over the future of taxes for the wealthy, for the middle class. Do you think it's possible to bring the budget into balance if you don't just raise taxes on wealthy Americans, but also on those so-called middle class making $250,000 less? Alan Greenspan was here last week and said the Bush-era tax cuts should expire for everyone.
Well, Number one, what the Democrats have to understand is you're never going to balance the budget unless you make meaningful changes in entitlements. We used to have 30-odd people supporting every retiree. Today it's 3 people or something like that supporting every retiree. So the Democrats have to understand we cannot get through this with the same set of entitlements that we have, where we keep giving benefits and there's fewer people to pay those benefits. On the other hand, the Republicans have to also understand you cannot balance the budget just with cuts. The American people, whether they vote Republican or Democrat, in the end, they don't want their programs cut back, particularly the big ones, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, those kinds of things. And I thought that the Alan Simpson and Erskine Bowles came up with their committee with exactly the right answer. You can tweak it. You can change some small things. I assume the Gang of Six will come out with something very similar. You have to have some combination of cuts in expenses and some revenue enhancements. You can call those taxes, whatever you want. And if you want to say, I was talking to Erskine yesterday, his idea is 25% in increasing revenue and 3/4 in terms of cutting expenses, and some ratio like that is the solution. How much chaos and destruction to our economy we have to do before everybody in Washington starts acting like an adult, coming together and not pandering to small voting blocks, but say, look, this is the interest of the country, and I'm not going to sit there, do a poll, find out where my constituents are, and follow them. We need leadership from the front. And that is true in Congress. It's true at the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue. It's true on both sides of the aisle. It's true in the case of states. The governor is very proactive, and he's steered Virginia through some very tough times. But he's done it by making decisions and pulling together. And people know where they stand with this government in Virginia, and that's what we need to have in America.